Once upon a time, my nigga, there was an ancient scroll. This scroll was valued, extremely valuable by all of the kingdoms of Wales. All of the kings wanted it because within this scroll was the secret to creating a secret potion. That could be used to acquire that could be used to deceive anyone or anything into doing anything you'd like. And the kings knew that the only way to get the most prized princess in all of the land was to acquire this scroll and to create the potion and to get her to drink it somehow. So, there was a knight, and he had a squire, his boy squire, that followed him everywhere. He taught him many lessons. And the king called the knight and the squire to his throne. Both of them arrived at the throne. They were scared to see what was so hastily needed that they had to go to the throne for this. They kneeled to their king. He said, "Stand." And he said, "I need you to go out and get this scroll. This is of dire importance that you take heed because the other kings are sending their knights out past tense." So the knight and the squire headed out on their two ponies. The only thing they knew was that the scroll was at the top of a giant mountain that was actually a volcano that spit flames sometimes. And there was a dragon that guarded this mountain. And within one of the chambers of the mountain was said to be the scroll. So they climbed like halfway up, like 3/4 of the way up this massive mountain. That's when they saw it, the dragon rearing its ugly serpent head. It was a Mexican woman. She could fly. She breathed straight. Okay. They saw the dragon. The knight lifted his sword, cut off its freaking head, and they defeated it. So they headed into its little lair, its little cave. Within there, they saw where the scroll was supposed to be, but it had been taken. They ran out of the cave and looked, and across the valley, on a mountain across from them, you see that they're looking down in this valley, and then another mountain starts. And up here on this mountain, they can see the asses of the two ponies of another knight and squire that had already gotten to the scroll and had taken off. So they head that way, trailing them night and day. Well, eventually that knight and squire made it back to their kingdom. But our boys were on their ass. They knew they couldn't let them get through the gates. So before they got to the drawbridge to cross the moat into the castle, our knight and squire sliced the enemy ponies' foots off, then took the fucking scroll and headed back for our castle and just left them there. They made it back to their castle and presented the scroll to the king. But the journey wasn't over, because you see, although the scroll detailed how to make this potion of deception, they still had to take the scroll to a wizard mage. So they packed up again and took off for another land. where a Serbian wizard mage had been told to have been residing in Hermitude. They linked up with him at his hermetical shack, and he concocted the crazy potion. Then they were on their way back to the king to present him with this crazy potion. That's when they got attacked by an entire fleet of giant venomous Mexican bitches. Which they defeated easily using the power of truth and God and righteousness. Anyways, they made it back to their castle and presented their king with this new potion. He said, "All right, now that you have this potion, the final task is getting the princess here so I can give it to her." So they set off one slide on their final triad. They had to go to another kingdom, basically kidnap their princess, smack her across the face, throw her on the back of one of their ponies, and back to their kingdom. It all went as planned, except there was one Mexican bitch that got so pissed off that she wasn't the princess, that she fucked everything up. The end. Or so they thought. But luckily, another knight saw what was happening. He was actually from a different kingdom, but he saw what was happening and he went and helped out. So they survived. They made it back to the kingdom, presented the potion to the king or the princess. Then, now all they had to do was figure out how to get this princess to consume this potion, to fall in love with the king, because that's what the king wanted. So, one night, everybody was in the gathering hall feasting, right? And the king called the knight and the squire to his throne, his private throne. So they go in there. All it is the king, them two, and the jester. Jester's just being a fool, joshing, you know. So then the king says, "All right, guys, I really need help because I can't think of any ways to like really do this, like pull this off." And so the knight starts to think, the squire's thinking, the jester's not thinking, he's just, you know, off fucking whatever the fuck, dancing around and shit. And then that's when the knight thought of it. He said, "Here's what we do. We have the jester go to the princess and tell her, make her laugh, and then present her with this drink, and the jester is gonna tell the princess that it is hot cocoa." So that's what they did. The jester went, livened up the princess at the damn town feast and shit, feast hall, and they presented her this hot cocoa. Then the knight and the squire, their mission was to get the princess to the king within 30 minutes of the activation period. But the problem was, on their way there, the fucking squire shittied himself. He shittied himself. So the squire shittied himself. So it was like, so they stopped because they didn't want to approach the king like that. So the squire went into a trough, and the princess and the knight stayed outside the trough, just vibing. They could still hear the music and the commotions and the festivities from the feast hall. And yeah, that hot cocoa set in. And now the princess was in a state, and old boy Knight just didn't know what to do. She was looking good. She was a fair maiden. So Squire came out, cleaned himself up. Jester was on his way back up to the throne, and Knight is like, yo, boys, I actually just fucking talked down this fair ass maiden, and the king's gonna be pressed. So they took off. It was a band of 4. Knight, his squire, the jester, and the fair maiden princess they had acquired. I mean, they really did all the work for it anyways. The king didn't do shit. So they set off into the Welsh countryside. They had to get far, far from the kingdom, because if anybody saw them, they would be known as traitors and deviators, be sentenced to death or to be held in the prisons beneath the kingdom for until they died shortly thereafter. So they took off. They ended up finding a homestead in some caves, actually back where they found the scroll. They decided to head back that ways, and set up camp there. And the squire and the jester ended up, the squire actually transitioned. And so it became like a 2-couple type party. The squire transitioned and the jester was type into that. I'm gonna stop doing that, it's corny. The jester was kind of into that. I just got an ugly laughing face. Like, the jester was kind of into that, so like they got together, they hooked up type shit, like on some real. And so it was like a duo party. And they fought dragons, ogres, beasts. You know the deal. But when it all came down to it, you know what took their party out? The knight got seduced by a Mexican bitch. And that actually took down the whole party. I'm not gonna get into that whole story right now. Just know it's tragic as fuck, because in the end, she just did not give a shit. Anyways, she fucked up everything and then just did not give a fuck like that. That was actually a pretty good one.
Peace be with y'all. I'm gonna deuce out from this type lifestyle. I'm gonna live in a fucking cabin, off the grid, hermetical style, nigga. I'm out. I'm peacing out from this world, yo. Hermetical style. Yeah, you can catch me in the woods, listening to wolves, writing down words. Yeah, you already know I'm gonna get down to business, following Christ, out into them mountains, them hills, them woods. It's almost like you think it's so twisted nowadays that we call that type of lifestyle bigger things. Like, oh no, I'm out of here. I got bigger things to strive for. Dude, this used to be the bigger things. A fucking big ass house, cool neighborhood. Nah, it's all twisted, bro. This ain't what we want no more. We want the woods, the solitude, serenity. No bitch on our fucking dick and in our ear.